Alright, yeah, man. It's H to the H Halfo. Look, I think, I'm not sure whether we mentioned this before, but there was like a little thing called Black Dynamite, which was a film starring Michael Jai White. Um, Obviously, you may have seen him in TDK as Gamble, but he's never had a big role in that, but that's just for a whole other issue. But yeah, Michael Jai White, African American martial artist, actor, who was also in Universal Soldier 2, I believe, with Van Damme. And yeah, he's been in a few martial arts films and in a few of these Tyler Perry films. But really, I mean, those who know of him really know of his martial arts prowess, and have been like, wow, why hasn't this guy had a starring film, and a good starring film? And and then Black Dynamite comes out. The trailer came out sometime last year, and I was like, you know what, this is interesting, because it was a film. It was like a trailer, and it was going back to the whole blaxploitation era of the 70s and trying to look at that, and not really modernize it, but using modern actors and sort of like condensing it and giving it out to like in a way that a modern audience would enjoy. So picking up on all of the filmmaking mistakes and inconsistencies of it, and playing on those inconsistencies in a clever way in the film. So yeah, I mean, briefly, Black Dynamite, it's basically about Black Dynamite, who's played by Michael Jai White, who is, this main tough hero guy who also, or was, a CIA agent from when the movie starts. He learns that his brother gets killed, and basically has to track down how and why his brother got killed, and it's basically a whole web linked in with drugs and the community and the whiters and everything like that. So it's it's very, very basic, kind of storyline, which is cool. So yeah, to the film. I mean, this film, watching it, it's possibly one of the funniest and most entertaining films I've seen in a while. I mean, one of the funniest, entertaining, and freshest films I've seen in a long time. And in a decade, I've said this so many times, Double H preaches and he'll preach again, in a decade of crap that we've had this past decade, it's actually quite refreshing that a film like this came out, was looked at a particular era of the blaxploitation era, and as even looking at some of the interviews, and it was interesting by them saying that yeah, obviously there was a whole racial thing of like basically using what blacks had and trying to use that to basically make money, because you could make the films for very cheap, and people would always flock to watch them films, no matter how low the budget was and how very basic the film looked, because they would just keep on watching it based on African Americans being presented in such a light in comparison to your Eastwoods and your Charles Bronsons. But what it was like, the point I made was that, wow, man, it's like you never really had African American heroes. You never really saw those guys out, and this was the first time you really saw African American heroes. So they were, and like even watching this flick, I mean, it's like I can't remember the last time I saw a quasi kung fu comedy kind of film that featured pretty much a whole African American cast. I mean, Undercover Brother was really a comedy, strictly a comedy, but this is more of a hero type thing. I mean, it is a comedy as well, but really it's like sort of the comedy comes from the inconsistencies, as I said, of the filmmaking and the kind of basic budgets of the filmmaking of the 70s, and use those inconsistencies and portraying them in a funny light. So they're funny sort of like unintentionally. Like, for instance, a funny scene is how in one scene you see Black Dynamite, and as he's talking, the boom mic, the mic, the microphone for you talking can actually be seen. So like when he looks up, he sees the boom mic, but he keeps on acting. And obviously that was obviously in many films where, like, because they didn't really care about editing and all that stuff, and a lot of stuff was done in one take, if the boom mic was still in the scene, they'd still keep on going, and they played on that, and that was like extremely funny, because he just kept on acting and just like glancing up at the boom mic. But so I mean, just watching the films, like, it was just very, very entertaining. And I mean, there are some lines in this film, man. I mean, I was just on the IMDb board, and like I'll just be reminded by so many like the scenes in it. The scene when he's in his dojo and he fights all of those guys in his dojo. When he fights, sorry, there are a lot of spoilers in this, so really you should watch this film before you see it. You know, what I mean, I'll try not to have any spoilers in it. I mean, because you should go and watch it. But so I'll try not to have that many spoilers. But I mean, the fight scenes in it are great. But really, it's like, I mean, some of the lines in it and the characters in it, you know, you have, I mean, one of the scenes to look out for is the pimp scene with the return of Arsenio Hall, who plays a very, very small part in it. Arsenio Hall obviously had his own TV show and was also in Coming to America with Eddie Murphy, very big in the 90s, well, early 90s, 80s. So yeah, I mean, it's like, you know, you have the pimp scene, you have the scene, just like, I mean, so much stuff is in it, and I think it's a perfect balance of being funny while also being very entertaining. But I mean, watching it, you're like, wow, man, you know, it's like, you just wish that there were more of these films being made, because the Tyler Perry films, stuff like Soul Food, it's like, okay, you know, I mean, it's too much. Listen, I've got nothing against Precious, man. I've got nothing against Precious, but it's like, it is pretty much what people expect from African Americans. It's like, oh, yep, the, you know, suffering, you know, going through all of these things. Like, yeah, it is very important to put these films out there, but there should be much more of a variety of films featuring African Americans. It shouldn't just be either dealing with the hood with rappers or these kind of dark social films, because then people just accept that, okay, this is just what African Americans do. Something like Black Dynamite is very, very interesting because, you know, you've got this hero kind of character, you know, who does kung fu, he's shooting guns, he's jumping around, he's trying to stop drugs from being in the community, trying to send a positive message, and, you know, they're all the colorful characters around, you know, so it's much more of like it's like a hero kind of thing, and like, you know, especially African American kids watching something like this, they're like, wow, man, you know, I don't want to be like Black Dynamite, you know, I don't have to be like Ryan Reynolds because I'm not Ryan Reynolds, no, I'm not blonde, you know, that's just not what I look like, you know. But so yeah, I mean, obviously on that level of showing a variety of African American cinema, I think is very important. But I think the beauty of this film and why I implore you guys to watch this film is that it's really highlights that era of film in a very clever way, you know, with the way the editing was done, using the same rule of film many, many times, just how things were unbalanced, but you saw how they were unbalanced in the films, but you knew that the creators of the film knew why they were unbalanced, you know. So that's why, I mean, like, guys like talking in a very spontaneous way, you know, lines coming out from different ways. It's like, it just, you know, the way it was uneven, it knew it was being uneven, which made it very interesting, you know. But again, it's like, I mean, I have to give credit to obviously the script was very witty, you know, with some very, very clever lines, and like this thing is really, I believe, it's going to be a cult hit, you know, because it has repeated viewing value, man. Because like the more times you watch it, because I've been looking at this again, and the more times I watch it, I just pick up new things, you know. But I mean, really have to just give credit to Michael J. White. I mean, obviously, apart from the kung fu, the character he played, I think he played that very, very well. You know, he got this sort of like monotonish kind of, you know, very direct, you know, on his mission thing, and a guy obviously who feels he has to do a very good thing, but you can feel like, if like, you know, he's very rigid and about his core values and on what he needs to do. I mean, but I mean, it's, you know, you could really connect with his character, and his character was very well realized both by the writing and obviously by the way Michael J. White played it, you know, and he played it very similar to the kinds of guys that were playing these kinds of roles back in the 70s, you know. So really, I got to say, guys, you know, I wholeheartedly recommend this. It is really, really funny, very, very entertaining, and it's a very, very fresh film, you know. So Double H gives us his stamp of approval, and yeah, man, it's a nice breath of fresh air. And personally, I'd like there to be a sequel, like more films like this, because I think that it was really, really well done. You know, guys knew what they were doing, and when you see the trailer, the film is pretty much what you see in that trailer. It's as exciting as that, and it is even funnier than that. Trust me. Double H out. Peace.